All right, it's week 13 of the NFL season. It's Thanksgiving. We got a ton of football on. I'm going to go through, break down every single matchup, give you my thoughts on the game, even maybe give you a little bit of gambling action, and then give you my picks for that game. But let's just hop on into it. Our first game on Thanksgiving, Bears at the Lions. Okay, the 10-1 Lions taking on the 4-7 Chicago Bears on Thanksgiving. The best Lions season since 1954, 7, one of those years in the 50s. I'm sure we all remember it. But yeah, first game on Thanksgiving. I actually like Chicago in this game. They've played really well the last 2 weeks since they fired offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. The offense has really come alive. A heartbreaking loss to Green Bay, another heartbreaking loss to Minnesota. Could they be due against the Lions this week? I don't quite think so. I think the Lions are just too much to handle for them. The Bears defense did give up a good amount of points to that Vikings offense, even at home. Jordan Addison had a monster day. Now, there are some injury concerns with Detroit. Maybe no David Montgomery, maybe no Amon-Ra St. Brown, but knowing Detroit, they're probably going to play. Detroit lost this game last year to Green Bay on Thanksgiving. They have to go ahead and win this one. But when we look at the lines here, plus 10, I think that's a little bit too much. I would like the Bears getting the points here. I think it's a close game that the Lions squeak out. They played two close games last year. These two teams, obviously different quarterback. Bears did win one of those games last year, and I would like the over. I think the Lions defense is a little bit overrated on the statistics. They haven't given up a point in the second half in the last three. I think that changes this week. Over 48.5. I like that one a lot, but I would think ultimately Lions bring home the dub. Okay, and just when everybody's probably sitting down to have Thanksgiving dinner, we have the Giants going to Dallas. Nobody really needs to watch this game, do they? 2-9 Giants, 4-7 Cowboys. Tommy DeVito versus Cooper Rush. Anybody? How about you go get some second servings of some turkey over there? Giants getting 3.5 here in Dallas. I just don't think the Giants are any sort of good. This defense got carved up last week by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They got grinded away on the ground, really. They didn't get carved up through the air, but on the ground, they were terrible. They couldn't move the football, and I actually liked what I saw out of Dallas against Washington. Cooper Rush looked like a competent quarterback, and what would the funniest result be? The Cowboys winning this game and really, really screwing up their draft pick, maybe giving their fans some delusional sense of hope. I would like the Cowboys to cover this 3.5. I don't think it's very close. The Giants have been awful on Thanksgiving against the Cowboys. They just can't beat them. Even when the Giants have their good season, they just aren't anywhere near good enough. On the total here, minus 120, under 37.5. There's a lot of juice on that. I think that's probably the way this goes. I don't think there's a whole lot of points. Cowboys defense looked a lot better against Washington last week. I think they feast against a really mediocre Giants team that's kind of looking like they're dysfunctional in the locker room. Maybe Malik Neighbors has a nice game. Probably not. I'm going to take the Cowboys to take care of business this week. All right, and when you're curling up with some pumpkin and apple pie, flip on over to NBC and watch the Dolphins heading to Lambeau Field. 5-6 Dolphins, 8-3 Packers. And look, the Dolphins have been really on a tear since Tua's come back. They've looked extremely well. Tua, 70% completion percentage, really changed how this offense is moving the football. But Green Bay, they feel like the better team here, and we know about this weather issue. Tua Tagovailoa, under 59 degrees is just a different quarterback, and when it gets below 40, he's like literally Daniel Jones. I mean, probably worse than Daniel Jones. He's the worst quarterback in the league under that weather, and the forecast is not looking great. We're looking in the 20s, possibly snow in Lambeau Field, but there's a lot of talk about this game. I think the Dolphins defense has been really, really the unsung hero of this team. I think it's an ugly, low-scoring game. Packers just don't quite feel as right this week. Give me the Dolphins not only getting the 3.5 against the Packers, I also like the Dolphins straight up in this game. I think they take one from Green Bay. Green Bay hasn't been quite as sharp. They kind of shake the nod that they can't win in the cold weather game. I could be making a fool of myself for believing it. I just think every year there's a team that gets hot at the right time down the stretch. And I think this year's team is the Dolphins. They come back from dead, make a playoff push. I also kind of like the over here, 46.5. I think we see some rushing touchdowns on the ground. Not too bad, not too high of a number here. So give me the Dolphins straight up and the over. Okay, after you're recovering from your Thanksgiving meal, check out Black Friday. The Raiders at the Kansas City Chiefs. Raiders just 2-9. The Chiefs obviously on a tear, 10-1. Spread is 12.5 with a total of 42.5. If you want to know my picks for the rest of these games on the spreads and the totals, be sure to check out our members only video coming out Friday where I'll break down all the rest of the games based on my point spreads coming up. But for now, let's just head on straight up here. Chiefs, they had a redemption game. They lost this game to Vegas on Christmas last year. Kansas City plays every game close. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be for the Raiders. Is it going to be Aiden O'Connell coming back from the IR, or is it the Riddler, Desmond Ridder? I really don't like them if it's Ridder. O'Connell gives them a little bit of a better chance, but still, the Chiefs are just a far superior team. They're not going to let this game get away from them. Chiefs moving to 11-1, probably locking up a playoff berth here at 11 wins. Raiders moving ever closer to that number 1 overall pick. Okay, we got the Seahawks and the Jets. The Jets coming off a bye. Seattle now in first place, coming off that huge win against Arizona. But there's just so much weirdness going on with the Jets. Aaron Rodgers, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Is he coming back? Devontae Adams, is he going to quit on this team? Who knows, man? But the Seattle Seahawks, they do have a terrible offensive line. The defense played a lot better. I think this is going to be an ugly, low-scoring game in New York. Probably bad weather on top of it. Give me the Seahawks, though. I just don't think the Jets are any sort of a competent football team. There's way too much dysfunction going on. Seattle's getting a little bit hot. 2 straight division games won by them. I think they're feeling good. Moving up to 7-5 and looking ahead to Arizona with a chance to maybe lock up that NFC West. Not officially, but in all sense and purposes, locking it up. Give me the Seahawks on the road this week. Okay, the 3-8 Titans traveling to our nation's capital to take on the 7-5 Commanders. Washington now lost 3 straight and looks like they are reeling a bit. A dreadful loss to the Cowboys. And Tennessee, a huge win on the road against the Houston Texans in the division. Now, Tennessee's been a feisty team, and Will Levis, since coming back from the injury, has been really good the last 3 weeks. He looked excellent against the Texans. Did still have to throw that pick 6, but Tony Pollard on the ground pounding the rock. And this Washington offense, we got to talk about it, man. Cliff Kingsbury's offense is really not good in the second half of seasons, no matter where he's been at, no matter what his position is, play caller, head coach, offensive coordinator. Just his teams tend to fall apart. Now, Tennessee, I think, is going to be riding a little bit too high off of that. This isn't a great spot for them. And this is kind of a must-win for Washington if they really want to have a shot to keep hold of that wild card spot in the NFC if they want any chance to push Philly. The division's probably gone, but you still want to make the playoffs there. I think this is another game that's a little bit high-flying. I think Washington can find some chances to move the football. Even though Tennessee's defense has been good, I think they're a little overrated as far as the statistics will show you. Give me the Commanders getting a much-needed win, but I think this one's going to be a lot closer than most people think. All right, the 5-7 Colts going to take on the 3-9 Patriots. Now, the Patriots are awful. Gerard Mayo, I think, is a terrible head coach. But I do love me some Drake May. I think Drake May is a real guy for them. I think he is the franchise quarterback, but the Patriots are just so bad. But the Colts, the same thing. They're kind of all over the place. There's no consistency at the quarterback play. Anthony Richardson is terrible. He cannot throw an accurate pass, but he's got all the weapons. He's got all the skill set there. The Colts defense also didn't do that bad of a job against the Lions last week. I think the Colts are going to be able to run the football against New England. We're going to get Jonathan Taylor going again, maybe running a lot of Anthony Richardson. Shouldn't be great weather. I like the Colts in this one. I think the Colts go in, get a win, somehow stay 6-7, right into that AFC wild card race. And New England just keep losing games. Why not get a better draft pick? Maybe you should sit Drake May, even though you love the experience, because I don't want to get the poor kid killed or have him lose his confidence. But give me the Colts on the road this week. All right, the 8-3 Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to the 4-7 Cincinnati Bengals. And I think you're like, man, I thought these records would be the opposite at this point in the year. Bengals coming off a bye, Steelers coming off that tough loss on Thursday in a blizzard, but 10 days off for them. So both teams probably pretty well rested, ready to rock and roll. And Joe Burrow has been on an absolute tear. Over 3,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, 4 picks, MVP type numbers. But man, this Bengals defense is atrocious. I think Pittsburgh's the better football team here. No matter what we say about the Bengals, they're 4-7. They feel like they could be 7-4. They just seem to lose every single one of these games. And Pittsburgh always wins these close one-score games. They finally did drop one, but Tomlin's really bad on a short week on the road. So give me the Steelers, though, on a rebound spot. Some extra rest here. I think this Steelers offense is going to have no problem moving the football. They're going to be able to run the ball. They're going to be able to throw the ball. And this Steelers defense is going to just be able to slow down the Bengals' high-flying offense just enough. Give me the Steelers to get one back on the road at the Bengals. All right, the 7-4 Chargers traveling across the country to take on the Atlanta Falcons here. And I think this one's going to be a little tough one for the Chargers, coming off a short week loss at home against the Ravens. Falcons coming off a bye, well-rested team. Now, I do like the Chargers pass rush to possibly disrupt this Falcons offense. Kirk Cousins has looked really old, really slow, but this Chargers defense is not what it was earlier in the season. Once they've started facing better offenses the last 2 weeks, they've been carved up a little bit, but I don't trust the Falcons. The NFC South is so garbage, man. These are not a good team. The Falcons are 6-5. They could easily be like 4-7. Like, they've won a couple of close games that maybe they shouldn't have here. I'm going to go with the Chargers on the road here. I think this is the better team. I think the better defense is going to win this day. The Falcons defense is kind of whatever. Chargers will be able to move the ball, establish that running game. Now, J.K. Dobbins is questionable with that knee injury. I don't know if he's going to play, but I really like what I've seen out of Justin Herbert this year. I think they're going to lean a little bit more on him this week. Give me the Chargers to go on the road and get a big dub. All right, we got Houston traveling to Jacksonville. The Jags coming off a bye, a 2-9 season. They currently hold the first overall pick. And yet somehow Doug Peterson is still the head coach of this team. Houston, a bad loss at home to Tennessee, but they've already probably locked up this division, so it doesn't really hurt them. I think the Texans need a bounce back game. I know they've just been underperforming left and right, but this Jaguars defense has been abysmal. Trevor Lawrence probably going to play, but if it's not him, Mac Jones then. I really dislike the Jaguars if Mac Jones plays. Still not a huge fan of them. There's no running game really to speak of. Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas Jr., a bright spot, potentially Evan Ingram. This Texans defense is bad, but I think this is a nice bounce back spot, and Houston always beats Jacksonville in Jacksonville. It's one of those weird division things. Jacksonville beats Houston in Houston. Houston beats Jacksonville in Jacksonville. So give me the Texans this week to get a bounce back win at the Jags. All right, we got the 6-5 Cardinals heading to my 9-2 Vikings. This is a very interesting matchup. Arizona drops a division game on the road to Seattle. They fall out of first place, but they might have a look-ahead spot. They got Seattle going to Arizona next week, and this is a tough spot for them. Minnesota's pass defense has not been great, but overall as a defensive unit, they've been doing a very good job at getting after the quarterback and forcing turnovers, and they do not allow teams to run the football, and this is where this Cardinals offense has struggled. When they can't get James Conner going, they can't get anything on the ground. Kyler Murray gets frustrated. When he gets hit, they can struggle to move the football. Now, Minnesota's also not great against tight ends, so expect maybe a big day from Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride, but I do ultimately think the Vikings take care of business at home. There's just too many weapons on this offense. The defense is going to make life a little too miserable for Kyler Murray, and the Vikings need to keep pace with the Detroit Lions in the NFC North, moving ahead the rest of the season. All right, the Rams traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Saints coming off a bye, feeling good, winners of 2 in a row since firing head coach Dennis Allen. But LA's got all to play for. Even though they're 5-6, they're still right there in the NFC West. A little bit on the outside looking in for the NFC wild card, but they're all in it on the division. I think the biggest issue here is this Rams offensive line looked really, really bad against the Eagles. Now, I know the Eagles have an elite defensive front. I just think New Orleans is going to be able to get after them. I think this is an upset spot here. I actually like the Saints to win this game. I think they're going to keep the momentum going. The defense for the Rams going to struggle, I think, with the Taysom Hill aspect, the running the football with Alvin Kamara. We saw what Saquon did to them. Now, you could say maybe that was a little bit later in the game. Still, this defense lives on the pass rush, and other than that, they're not that good. Kind of average dudes back there, and they're just something quite not right with this Rams team. They almost lost to the Patriots. They get hammered by the Eagles. Give me the Saints in a little bit of an upset, I think. Keep the momentum rolling and maybe surprise the NFC South, getting there at 5-7 and probably burying the Rams for the rest of this season. Okay, Buccaneers at the Panthers. Panthers playing good the last few weeks. They did ultimately fall to the Kansas City Chiefs, but Tampa Bay, I really like this team. I think this is a team that is much better than their record. We know they lost Chris Godwin and Mike Evans at a really, really inopportune time in the schedule. They dropped 3 in a row. They bounced back last week, beat the piss out of the Giants, and the Panthers team Really not a great run defense this season. Really not a great defense on anything. We got the three-headed monster potentially with Bucky Irving, Rachaad White, and Sean Tucker in the backfield. I think Irving has a nice day. I think White has a nice day. And we're going to have some nice Mike Evans sprinkled back in there with Cade Otton. Give me the Buccaneers. I think this is a very underrated team, a team that's really going to push Atlanta. Even though they lost both games to the Falcons, I think the Buccaneers, with a very soft schedule, have a real strong opportunity to make a playoff push. Give me the Buccaneers to keep that ride rolling this week. All right, Eagles going to the Ravens in maybe my favorite game of the weekend, maybe one of my favorite games of the year. 9-2 Eagles, 8-4 Ravens. Both teams out in LA this weekend, so they both had to fly across country, so no real edge there. I think this is going to be a very interesting chess matchup. The Eagles have been playing some of the best football in the league right now. Saquon Barkley, potentially your MVP. Mix in a very potent passing attack with Jalen Hurts when they get the opportunity. A.J. Brown still a top dog at receiver. Maybe we get Devontae Smith back. But the Ravens, another grind pound run team. Lamar Jackson playing some of his best football he's ever played, and my man's already won 2 MVPs. Ravens defense playing a lot better. Good run defense versus good run defense, and both teams love to run the football. I think this is an excellent matchup. My only concern is, can the Ravens stay consistent in the running game? They tend to get away from it, and that's where they can get themselves in trouble. But Nick Sirianni hasn't done anything stupid yet. He's been really well behaved the last few weeks in an excellent grinded out game, and give me the Ravens in an all-time classic, I think, this weekend. Okay, 49ers heading to Buffalo. Buffalo coming off the bye, coming off the high of beating the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Frisco looks like their season could be over. Brock Purdy, questionable again, didn't play last week. We don't quite know what's going on with his shoulder. If it's Brandon Allen, this is a layup pick. If Brock Purdy plays, maybe a little bit more competitive a game. But give me Buffalo. I don't think this is close. The Niners are just bad. There's a bad locker room right now. There's too many injuries. There's too many old guys. And this might be the best Bills team we've seen in this run with Josh Allen. Josh Allen's the best he's been. We got weapons galore. I like Keon Coleman. I like Amari Cooper. I like Khalil Shakir and James Cook and Ray Davis in the backfield. And this defense for Buffalo has been really, really good. I just don't think San Francisco has any sort of firepower to keep up with this Bills team, especially coming off the bye at home on Sunday Night Football. This one could get ugly. Give me the Bills. All right, and finally on Monday night, maybe not the game we all wanted, but it could be an interesting, fun one to wrap up the holiday week. And Denver hosting the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland coming off that big win with Jameis Winston against the division rival Steelers. And Denver, they just keep beating up on bad teams. 7-5. I don't think anybody really had Denver at 7-5 in this point of the season. This defense has been really, really good. Bo Nix has been better than advertised, especially the last 6 weeks or so. He's really come on strong. I think this is going to be a Jameis Winston game. I think we could see it get ugly quick. I think Jameis Winston's going to be slinging the rock all over the place. We could have a 3 or 4 interception game against this Denver secondary, maybe forcing balls against Patrick Surtain the second. I think a little bit of that Jameis magic wipes away. Give me the Broncos to keep on winning. Maybe the worst 8-5 team we've seen in a while, but 8-5 is still 8-5 and locking up that wild card spot in the AFC potentially. All right, that's going to do it for us this week. Here are my picks again. The Lions, Cowboys, Dolphins, Chiefs, Seahawks, Commanders, Colts, Steelers, Chargers, Texans, Vikings, Saints, Buccaneers, Ravens, Bills, and the Broncos to wrap it all up. If you haven't already, drop a quick like on this video, subscribe to the channel. We got new sports content for you guys every single day. If you want to check out the rest of my picks against the spread and the totals for this weekend slate of games, be sure to sign up for a channel membership. You get all sorts of access to those exclusive videos and cool perks to use throughout the year during live streams, stuff like that. Help support me, allows me to keep making this great content for you guys every single day. Again, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.